Today, we're going to do some heated grips. 2024 klx300. Here's what we're working with. We have the TUSK grip heater kit right here. This allows you to use any grip you prefer to use on your bike. So here's what you get in the kit. You get your main power wire with the resistor on it. You get a toggle switch. This is not the best toggle switch. It's not even rated as waterproof, and it's kind of cheesy, so you may want to get, and it sticks up very high, so you might want to get a rocker type switch, or I believe it's on the KLR. I have one of these, but it's a waterproof toggle, and it's basically all metal. It's much more durable. They give you this little sticker which goes on top of your mounting plate after you push up your toggle switch through there. You get one wire fastener there, and you also get this little wire end to put on that actually is one of the wires that plugs onto your tab on your toggle. And of course you get two of these. I have one already. These are your heating element with your two wires coming off of it there. And of course this is your instruction sheet. That's basically your diagram. It's very simple. The hardest thing about these grips is getting the original grips off. Now here are my original grips. The left side, clutch side, just put a slit in it and peeled it right off. Then of course clean all the residue off. Now this is your throttle side. This one I sliced, but of course it was glued, and I would just pull on it and run a razor blade, pull on it like you were skinning an animal. Pull on it, then it basically ripped off. The toughest part is right up here around the flange of your grip. That was the hardest part, and of course here is your throttle tube. So then once that is off, you need to scrape with a razor blade or whatever you want to do, but you got to get the remaining rubber that is glued on here, because you want to get this as smooth as possible so that your heating element will stick. And even once I got that off, I scraped this, I sanded it, and this will have some ridges on it, some real fine ridges. And I scraped those with a razor blade to get those off of there. I can feel right now I still have a little bit of rubber on the bottom here I got to get off. But I'll go ahead here in a minute and we'll stick that on. Then of course you need to take your headlight mask off, your headlight assembly. It is one bolt right here above your turn signal on each side. Then you will just lay it forward and pull it up, because you got to get it off of these two. You have rubber grommets on your headlight mask assembly that go on top of these two nipples. And then of course you unplug this. You'll just squeeze on this piece right here hard as you can and pull off. Then you can remove that. Then your next step is you're going to want to take this wire with the heating element resistor on it, excuse me, and you have these two connector ends, and then you have one bare wire end. The bare wire end, what I did is I found a keyed wire that only comes on when you turn the key on, which is this brown one right here. You can see that brown. So that's what this bare end wire is, your power lead. So I crimped that into that brown wire, and then of course you have these two leads which go to your switch right here. The one with the resistor on it goes to the high tab, and then the other one will go to the low tab. And this is my mount. This is homemade. Just a little piece of sheet metal I had laying around. I measured for the bolt holes, drilled those, and then of course I drilled the hole for the center here, stuck it through, put my little sticky thing on for high and low, and tightened down my knurled nut there. So that's pretty simple doing that. Then of course I have this one stuck on. I cleaned this very well. Then you want to keep in mind too, you can either put this wire at the very bottom, because you're going to want to run it like to hide the wire, basically underneath there, and then zip tie it into your other part of your harness here coming off your turn signal switch. Because these wires, one of these of each grip will get connected together, and you have to have them on a ground. What I'm going to do though is I'm just going to run them up into where the turn signal area is behind the headlight and crimp these into the ground wires on the turn signals. But all you need to do is take a bolt loose that is connected to metal on the chassis, and you can screw those in also to that. Or you could technically run a wire the whole way back to your battery if you wanted to. Then the other wire, you will take the left grip wire, the remaining wire, take your throttle heating element wire that's left over, and your leftover clutch grip side wire. You will put them together, twist them together, and you will crimp on this blade connector, and then it will connect to your center terminal remaining on your switch. So I'm going to go ahead and set the camera up here, and we'll stick this heating element on this throttle tube side here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. All right, here's our element. Now I already kind of taped these two wires together. You could just slide a piece of shrink tube on here, shrink tube this to hold them together a little bit, because when you put it on here, your heating element, you'll have two wires kind of dangling here if you don't twist them together, you know, or something, until you get them up here to your harness. And you keep in mind, before you zip tie this wire down to anything going down your handlebar, you have to leave enough space for the throttle to operate when you do this. And you don't want it like tight and catching on the corner here or anything like that. I usually keep it right about in this area with a little bit of a loop, and it sucks having like extra wire there, but you got to do it that way. And another thing to keep in mind, I'll try to show the camera here. When you stick this on, the throttle tube is thicker than the clutch side. So when you stick this element on the throttle side, you have at least a ½ inch gap with no heating element right here. So on the clutch side, there's basically maybe a ½ inch gap. You hardly lose any heating area. So you have this gap, so you want to keep in mind, you want to kind of keep that somewhere that your hand is not connecting. So I try to keep it on the back side here so that I have heat on the top of my hand and all the way around to my fingertips, the palm of my hand to fingertips. So I'm going to kind of stick it, and the wires are going to be kind of protruding right out the front of this tube right here. So I'm going to go ahead. I had already wiped this down with some paint thinner. It's as clean as I can get it. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this on. They have a sticky back, and you may want to, this is pretty stiff material. If you have a heat gun, you may want to heat this up a little bit, and then as you're sticking it on, give it some heat so that the adhesive really bites and you get a good stick, you know, on your bar. I will probably run some heat on both sides of these before I put my grips on. Or if you're in a cold climate, you definitely want to put a little heat to everything before you stick it. You just peel the backing off here like that. And we'll go ahead and get this. And these babies do stick good if you have everything nice and clean. Give you a quick look there. So that's how it is. I'm going to show you this gap here. See, that's on the back. There's heating element here, and one just underneath here is the last heating element. I'm going to go ahead and grab the heat gun, get a little heat on that. Where are you, Mr. Heat Gun? Now, I've used these TUSK elements on a lot of bikes and a lot of quads. They've been very good for me. There has been an occasion where the solder joint right here has broken, and I just always, this kit's 20 bucks. I always keep an extra kit on hand in case through the winter one of those breaks and I can just kind of, you know, pop the grips off and throw another one of these on quick. All right, so there we got that on, and then what I said, when you keep in mind, when you zip tie this up, make sure you let enough slop, enough extra wire so that you have no problem, because if you don't, you will bust that solder joint after a few rides. That'll come off. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these wires run. Like I said, I'm gonna do, you have one from each, you gotta take one from each grip. I'm gonna pop it up through. You can, like I said, you can screw it to a ground. There's a ground wire like right down here on the neck. You can put loops on the end of these and screw into them, but I'm just gonna go out, catch the wire on the turn signal, and put one of the blue crimp couplers on each side, and that's going to be my ground for both of them. And then of course I will get the blade, connect the remaining wire each side together, and then plug it into the blade terminal. So I'll catch up with you here as soon as I get that done. Okay, let's get a grip on here. Now remember, of course, throttle tube one has a big hole, clutch side, smaller hole. Get your grip glue out. I'm just using E6000, you can use goop, whatever. This always works for me. Plus this seems to be a little bit easier to get off if you ever got to replace an element than grip glue. Okay. Now, of course, I have wraparound hand guards, so I'll have to whack a hole, cut the end of the grip off here, as always. And when you get that on, you'll see how the wire, it's right to the end of the element. You know, the element should be covered, and your wires are just coming out there just a little tiny bit. I'm going to go ahead and get the throttle tube side on, and then I will kind of check in here with everything buttoned up at the end. And a quick tip, make sure before you put the grips on, start the bike up or turn your key on. They will get warm instantly. Flick them on high and put your hands on both sides and make sure they're warming up before you go ahead and put your grips on. You don't want to put your grips on then have something not working. You have to rip one of them back off. So we'll check in here when I get the other grip on and get buttoned up here a little bit. All right, we're all wrapped up. So we have heated grips for the heated grip kit. I'll post it down below to make sure. I can never remember the prices, but heated grip kit, 20 bucks. TUSK grips, I believe they were under $10 for the set of them. So that's 30 bucks, and probably the worst part of this is cleaning the throttle tube off is really the worst part of the whole thing. Your wiring's very simple, and if you got to make a plate, if you don't have already some kind of plate, you know, up here like a dash, and you have to make something here, you'll have a little bit of time in, but you know, hour and a half and 30 bucks, you have heated grips. One tip I do want to make, what's nice about these TUSK grips, when you get them on the whole way, and if you're putting hand guards on, wraparounds, this little raised piece right here in the grip is a perfect cutting line. You cut right on the inside of that, and it cuts the end of the grip off perfect, so you get a real nice cut and no guessing. That's one thing I like about these. It works absolutely perfect with that. That thing is just in the right spot. And you cut around it and boom, you have access to the end of your grip. If you notice too, I'm running ROX risers, and TUSK Chubb bars KTM bend on there. All right, so another little project done on the KLX. Good for winter now with the heated grips, ready to roll. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. If you want to, you can share it. Get on your bike, get outside.